John Chatterton and Richie Kohler experienced wreck researchers descended into the cold darkness of the Atlantic and discovered something that made their hearts skip a beat.
The year is 1991. You're 230 feet beneath the Atlantic Ocean, 60 miles off the New Jersey coast. The water is freezing. Visibility? Maybe 3 feet if you're lucky. Your breathing echoes in your ears as you move through the darkness, following a sonar ping that led you here. Then you see it. A massive shadow emerges from the murk. Metal, corroded, ancient. A submarine. But here's the problem. According to every official record, every military document, every history book ever written, there shouldn't be a submarine here. Not this far from shore. Not in American waters. What you're looking at has been lost for nearly 50 years. And what's inside? That's going to rewrite everything we thought we knew about World War II. The Atlantic's deadly secret. Let me take you back to 1944. The Atlantic Ocean had become a graveyard. German U-boats, submarines, prowled these waters like wolves, hunting Allied ships that carried food, weapons, and soldiers. Across to Europe, these weren't just military targets, merchant vessels, supply convoys, troop transports. The U-boats showed no mercy. Germany deployed hundreds of these steel predators during the war. Their mission? Simple. Cut the supply lines, starve Britain, make crossing the Atlantic so dangerous that America would think twice about sending help. And they were devastatingly effective. Thousands of Allied ships went to the bottom. Each one represented not just lost cargo, but lost lives. Sailors who never made it home. The U-boat campaign was one of Germany's most successful strategies, a silent war beneath the waves that nearly changed the outcome of World War II. Among these submarines was one designated U-869. Built in 1943 at the Deschimug shipyard in Germany, U-869 was a type Line C-40, one of the larger, more capable submarines in the German fleet. At nearly 250 feet long, she was designed for long-range operations. 6 torpedo tubes, enough fuel, to cross the entire Atlantic and back. This wasn't some coastal defender. This was a deep-water hunter. Her commander? Kapitän-Leutnant Helmut Neuerberg, an experienced officer taking his first submarine into combat. By late 1944, when U-869 was ready for action, the war had turned decisively against Germany. Allied forces were advancing on all fronts. The German military was fragmenting. Communication systems were breaking down, but the U-boats kept going out. In December 1944, Naval Command issued U-869's first war patrol orders. The destination? Gibraltar, that narrow strait where the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic. A strategic choke point where Allied ships had to pass. Sink vessels there, and you'd create chaos for the entire Allied supply network. U-869 left port with 56 men aboard, and then she vanished. The official story: that was completely wrong. On February 11, 1945, 2 American warships, the destroyer USS Howard D. Crowe and the Coast Guard cutter USS Coast Guard, reported engaging an unidentified German submarine near Gibraltar. They detected something on their sonar, launched a depth charge attack, watched the telltale oil slick and debris rise to the surface. Mission accomplished. Enemy submarine destroyed. Back at headquarters, naval analysts looked at their charts. They checked which U-boats were supposed to be in that area. Based on timing and location, they concluded the destroyed submarine must have been U-869. The paperwork was filed. The families were notified. 56 German sailors were officially listed as killed in action off the coast of Gibraltar. Case closed. The file on U-869 gathered dust for over 4 decades. Nobody questioned it. Why would they? The military said the submarine was destroyed near Gibraltar. That became historical fact. Memorial plaques listed Gibraltar as the final resting place. Families mourned their loved ones, believing they died in the Mediterranean. But here's what should have raised red flags from the very beginning. Nobody ever found wreckage near Gibraltar. No debris field, no confirmed artifacts. Nothing but that single combat report from 2 ships that claimed they'd sunk something. And let's be honest, in the chaos of war, with limited technology and stressed-out crews operating in combat conditions, misidentifications happened constantly. Even more suspicious? German naval records, what little survived the collapse of the Third Reich, were incomplete and contradictory. By 1945, Germany was falling apart. Radio communications were erratic. Orders got confused. Record-keeping became chaotic. Documents were lost or deliberately destroyed as the regime crumbled. But there was one detail that should have told investigators something was very wrong. U-boats maintained regular radio contact with Naval Command. These weren't silent submarines ghosting through the ocean for months. They reported positions, received new orders, sent status updates. U-869's last confirmed radio transmission came from the North Atlantic, thousands of miles from Gibraltar. After that transmission, complete radio silence. The submarine disappeared as if the ocean had simply swallowed it whole. No distress signal, no final message, no wreckage, no survivors, nothing. For 46 years, U-869 remained one of the Atlantic's buried secrets. Her true location unknown. Her actual fate a mystery hidden beneath conflicting reports and the fog of war. But the ocean keeps its secrets only until someone comes looking. The discovery that changed everything. Summer 1991, off the coast of New Jersey. Bill Nagel, a legendary wreck diver with an obsession for finding lost ships, was scanning the ocean floor with side-scan sonar. This technology bounces sound waves off the bottom, creating images of whatever's down there. Nagel had found dozens of wrecks, this way. But on this day, his sonar picked up something different. Approximately 60 miles offshore from Point Pleasant, at a depth of 230 feet, the sonar showed a large, elongated object. The shape was unmistakable to experienced eyes. Long, narrow, cylindrical. A submarine. But that made no sense. There were no records of any submarine sinking in this location. Not American, not German, not anyone's. Nagel studied his charts again. Nothing. He checked historical records. Still nothing. He assembled a team of elite technical divers, including John Chatterton and Richie Kohler, names that would become legendary in the wreck diving community. These weren't casual recreational divers. Technical diving at 230 feet requires years of training and specialized equipment. You're breathing mixed gases, not regular air. You're dealing with crushing pressure, narcosis, oxygen toxicity. Get anything wrong at that depth, and you don't come home. On their first dive, visibility was maybe 3 feet. The water was dark, cold, and filled with suspended sediment. The wreck lay partially buried in sand and tangled in decades of lost fishing nets. But even in those first moments, they knew what they'd found. A submarine. A big one. But whose? The exterior hull was heavily corroded. 75 years of salt water had eaten away at the metal. Marine growth covered everything. The conning tower was partially collapsed. No identification numbers were visible. No nameplates. No flags or insignia. Time and pressure had erased the submarine's identity. The divers nicknamed it U-Who, because that's exactly what it was. An unknown German U-boat sitting where no German submarine should be. And determining its identity would take 6 years, dozens of dangerous dives, and discoveries that would shock the maritime archaeology world. The deadly hunt for answers. Each dive to the wreck pushed these men to their limits. At 230 feet, bottom time was measured in minutes, maybe 20 minutes maximum before mandatory decompression stops. And those decompression stops, they took hours. Hang at various depths on your way back up, letting nitrogen slowly leave your bloodstream. Rush it, and you'll suffer decompression sickness, the bends, which can paralyze or kill you. Strong underwater currents frequently made diving impossible. Winter storms could cancel weeks of planned expeditions. The water temperature at that depth stayed near freezing year-round. Even in the best diving suits, you felt it in your bones. But Chatterton, Kohler, and their team kept going back. They began recovering small artifacts. German gauges with metric measurements. Valves and pipes clearly manufactured in Germany. Each item confirmed what they already suspected. This was definitely a German U-boat. But which one? The German Navy commissioned over 1,100 submarines during World War II. Without a specific identity, this was just another lost vessel. Then came the breakthrough. Deep inside the wreck, tangled in debris and covered in silt, a diver found a knife. Just a butter knife, the kind sailors used for meals. But someone had engraved a name into the metal handle. Horenberg. This single artifact opened the door. The team started researching German naval records, searching for anyone named Horenberg who'd served on U-boats. They found him, Georg Horenberg, officially listed as a crewman aboard U-869. But U-869 supposedly sank near Gibraltar, didn't it? The team pressed on. During subsequent dives, they recovered valve manifolds and diesel engine components bearing serial numbers. They traced those numbers back to Deschamag AG Weser, the shipyard that built U-869. The numbers matched perfectly. Then they found something that removed all doubt. A clearly marked escape trunk lid, stamped with the number 869. After 6 years of dangerous underwater archaeology, the civilian dive team had accomplished what military and government organizations had never done. They'd found a submarine that was supposed to be on the other side of the ocean. They'd identified it beyond any reasonable doubt. In 1997, the United States Navy officially acknowledged their findings. The submarine lying off New Jersey was U-869. But now the real mystery began. Because if U-869 was here, not near Gibraltar but 60 miles off the American coast, what was it doing here? And what killed it? How do you kill a submarine? Identifying the wreck answered one question but raised another that was equally disturbing. How did U-869 actually die? The physical evidence told a troubling story. The forward section showed massive crushing and deformation. Internal compartments had imploded from intense force. Whatever happened, it happened with devastating speed, fast enough that the 56-man crew never reached the escape hatches. No one attempted to surface. No emergency procedures were initiated. They died instantly, with no warning. Two main theories emerged from the investigation, and each one is terrifying in its own way. Theory 1. The Circle Runner. German torpedoes were sophisticated weapons, but they had a deadly flaw. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes, a torpedo's gyroscope would malfunction after launch. Instead of running straight toward its target, the weapon would curve into a wide arc, a circle. And circles have a nasty way of bringing things back to where they started. Circle Runner torpedoes killed several U-boats during the war. Every commander knew about this nightmare scenario. You fire at the enemy, and your own weapon curves around and comes back at you, at full speed, armed and ready to detonate. You have maybe 30 seconds to realize what's happening and take evasive action. In a submarine submerged with limited maneuverability, your options are essentially zero. Evidence supporting this theory. Several torpedo tubes on U-869 were still sealed when divers found the wreck. If they'd been in combat with enemy ships, why hadn't they fired? The pattern of internal damage suggested an explosion originating very close to the hull, consistent with one of their own torpedoes detonating against the pressure hull. But there's a problem with this theory. If U-869 was on a combat patrol to Gibraltar, what was it doing off the New Jersey coast? Why was it here, in American waters, apparently testing or firing torpedoes? Theory 2. Depth charge attack. The alternative explanation centers on those two American warships, USS Howard D. Crowe and USS Coiner. On February 11, 1945, they reported engaging and destroying an unidentified submarine. The U.S. Navy maintained for decades that this engagement was what killed U-869. Depth charges are terrifying weapons. They're explosive barrels set to detonate at specific depths. The concussion wave can crush a submarine's hull like a soda can. A coordinated attack by two warships dropping patterns of depth charges? Deadly effective. But here's what doesn't add up. The location where those two ships reported their attack doesn't exactly match where divers found the wreck. Close, but not identical. The coordinates are off by several miles, close enough to suggest a connection, but far enough to create doubt. And if American ships sank U-869 off New Jersey, why didn't anyone know it was U-869 at the time? The submarine wasn't supposed to be anywhere near American waters. Its orders sent it to Gibraltar. Why would it show up off the New Jersey coast? Both theories have evidence supporting them. Both have gaps that prevent definitive conclusions. For years, this is where the investigation stalled. And then, in late 2024, divers found the sealed compartment, what was, hiding in the darkness. For over 30 years, one section of U-869 remained inaccessible. Structural collapse and extreme corrosion had sealed off a compartment in the stern section. Getting inside was dangerous. The corroded metal could collapse further, trapping divers. Sharp edges could tear suits or air hoses. But in late 2024, a team equipped with improved technology and breathing systems decided to try. They worked carefully, removing debris piece by piece. The ocean had protected this sealed chamber better than the rest of the submarine. When they finally broke through and shined their lights inside, they were looking at a time capsule, frozen at the moment U-869 sank in 1945. Personal lockers, storage crates stacked where sailors had left them. Some containers still had partial rubber seals that had somehow maintained integrity for 80 years underwater. But it was what they found inside those containers that changed everything. According to sources familiar with the discovery, sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because of the sensitive nature of these findings, the team recovered items that immediately attracted the attention of historians and intelligence specialists. A ceremonial dagger, the kind issued to officers in elite German naval units, elaborately decorated, with an etched motto on the blade. Near the dagger, a watertight crate. Inside, a German naval dress uniform, still in remarkable condition, the Iron Eagle insignia clearly visible. And something else, a red armband bearing a swastika. These items alone were unusual but not unprecedented. What came next was genuinely shocking. Beneath layers of documents wrapped in waterproof oilcloth, divers found a box. Inside that box, a carefully folded Nazi flag and propaganda leaflets, printed in English. Let that sink in for a moment. Propaganda leaflets, written in English, aboard a German submarine found 60 miles off the American coast. These weren't documents meant for German sailors. These were designed to be distributed to American civilians. Messages crafted to undermine support for the war effort. Why would U-869 be carrying English-language propaganda? Unless the final discovery removed any remaining doubt about what they'd found. A partially encrypted codebook bearing markings associated with the Abwehr, Nazi Germany's military intelligence service. These codebooks were considered ultra-sensitive materials. Submarines didn't carry them unless they were conducting intelligence operations. The team made a deliberate decision not to publicize these findings. The materials raised politically sensitive questions that authorities preferred to handle quietly. But more importantly, they suggested a possibility that fundamentally contradicted the accepted historical narrative. What if U-869 wasn't on a combat patrol to Gibraltar at all? What if its real mission, the classified mission that never made it into the official records, was to conduct covert operations on or near American soil? The mission nobody knew about. Let's piece this together. Late 1944. Germany is losing the war on all fronts. The Nazi regime is desperate. What do desperate regimes do? They launch desperate operations. U-869 receives official orders directing it to patrol near Gibraltar. Those orders go into the official record. That's what future historians will read. But what if there was a second set of orders? Classified orders, known only to Captain Nuremberg and perhaps a handful of senior crew members. The evidence found in that sealed compartment suggests exactly this scenario. The propaganda leaflets indicate a plan to distribute subversive materials on American soil, possibly through operatives landed by submarine. The Abwehr codebook suggests coordination with intelligence networks. The ceremonial items and Nazi memorabilia might have been intended for delivery to sympathetic contacts or sleeper agents already in the United States. Does this sound far-fetched? It shouldn't. German submarines landed saboteurs in the United States multiple times during World War II. Operation Pastorius in 1942 put 8 German agents ashore in New York and Florida. They were caught, but the operation proved it could be done. Other smaller operations may have succeeded without public knowledge. By early 1945, Germany had lost any realistic hope of winning the war. But they could still cause chaos, disrupt the American home front, spread defeatism and discord, maybe even assassinate key political or military figures. A submarine carrying intelligence operatives and propaganda materials to the American East Coast would explain everything the divers found. It would explain why U-869 was off New Jersey instead of Gibraltar. It would explain the sealed compartment containing sensitive materials that regular combat crews wouldn't need. But it raises one final chilling question. What happened to the mission? Did U-869 successfully deploy its operatives before sinking? Or did something go catastrophically wrong before they reached their objective? We may never know. What we do know is that 56 men died carrying secrets that remained hidden for 80 years. And those secrets suggest that the final months of World War II involved operations far more complex and disturbing than the official histories reveal. The man who cheated death. Among the 56 names originally assigned to U-869's crew, one man survived. Not because of skill or luck during the mission, because he never made it aboard. Herbert Gushevsky had trained with U-869's crew during the preparation phase. He knew the other sailors. He'd learned the submarine's systems. He was assigned a bunk and a duty station. By all rights, he should have sailed with them in December 1944. But shortly, before departure, Herbert fell ill. Nothing dramatic, just sick enough that the medical officer declared him unfit for duty. In the confined, high-pressure environment of a submarine, there's no room for sick crew members. Another sailor received orders to take Herbert's place. U-869 left port without him. For more than 50 years, Herbert Gushevsky believed his former shipmates had died near Gibraltar, just as the official record stated. He lived with whatever complex mix of guilt and relief comes from missing a deployment that killed everyone you trained with. Then, in the 1990s, the phone rang. The American divers who'd been working to identify the mystery submarine had tracked him down. They wanted to ask him questions about U-869, about the crew, about anything he remembered. And they had news. News that contradicted everything Herbert had believed for half a century. U-869 hadn't died near Gibraltar. The submarine lay off the New Jersey coast, thousands of miles from where Herbert thought his former crewmates had perished. Richie Kohler, one of the primary divers, later described Herbert's reaction as skeptical at first. Can you blame him? For 50 years, one version of history. Then strangers call and tell you everything you believed was wrong. But the divers had proof. They showed Herbert photographs of items recovered from the wreck. Most convincingly, they had pictures of that knife, the one engraved with Horenberg. Herbert's face changed when he saw that name. He confirmed immediately, yes, Georg Horenberg had served on U-869. Herbert had known him, trained with him. That single piece of verification helped confirm the wreck's identity beyond any doubt. When asked how he felt about the discovery, Herbert reportedly expressed quiet sadness for the men who'd died, and simple acknowledgement of the random chance that had saved him, a minor illness. That's all that stood between life and death. If he'd been healthy that week in December 1944, his bones would be resting in that submarine too. Herbert Gushevsky died in 2005 at the age of 82. He never learned about the sealed compartment discovery that would occur nearly 20 years after his death. Whether he knew anything about U-869's true mission remains unknown. He gave very few interviews and never discussed any classified aspects of the submarine's orders, if he even knew about them. If Herbert had information about secret operations or hidden objectives, he took that knowledge to his grave. The legacy. Written in steel and secret, U-869 represents more than just another shipwreck on the ocean floor. It's a reminder that history, even well-documented, thoroughly studied history, can be fundamentally wrong for decades. For 50 years, military records, history books, and memorial plaques stated confidently that U-869 died near Gibraltar. Official sources declared this with absolute certainty. It took civilian divers, people doing this on their own time, with their own equipment, risking their own lives, to prove that the official story was completely false. What does that tell us about other settled historical facts? How many other sunken vessels are lying in places they're not supposed to be? How many other military operations from World War II involved secret missions that never made it into the official records? The discovery also showcases the power and persistence of dedicated researchers. John Chatterton, Richie Kohler, and their team spent 6 years making dangerous dives, often in terrible conditions, because they were determined to give this submarine its name back. They gave 56 men their true final resting place. That matters. The families of U-869's crew deserved to know where their loved ones actually died. Historians deserved accurate information. The public deserved truth instead of assumptions that persisted simply because they appeared in official documents. But perhaps the most profound legacy of U-869 is what it reveals about the final, desperate months of World War II. By early 1945, Nazi Germany was a collapsing regime sending submarines on missions so secret that no trace of them remained in the historical record. These weren't conventional combat patrols. These were shadow operations, covert actions, last-ditch attempts to strike at enemies they could no longer defeat on the battlefield. U-869 and her 56-man crew became casualties of that desperation. They died carrying secrets, executing orders that may have been deliberately omitted from official logs. Their submarine became a steel tomb 230 feet beneath the surface, holding those secrets for 80 years until civilian divers finally brought part of the truth back into the light. Questions that echo in the deep. The wreck of U-869 still sits on that sandy bottom, slowly rusting away into the Atlantic. Each year, the ocean claims a little more of the steel. Eventually, nothing will remain but a debris field of scattered metal. But before that happens, before time and saltwater erase this last physical evidence, perhaps more answers will emerge. Perhaps additional exploration of the wreck will reveal documents or materials that clarify the mission. Perhaps somewhere in a forgotten archive, someone will find German records that survive the chaos of 1945 and provide definitive proof of U-869's true orders. Or perhaps not. Perhaps this is one of those historical mysteries that will never be completely solved. The ocean keeps its secrets stubbornly, and 80 years of salt water doesn't make investigation easier. But this much we know for certain. Official history was wrong. U-869 wasn't where it was supposed to be, doing what it was supposed to be doing. The submarine carried materials suggesting covert operations on American soil. 56 men died executing a mission that may have been deliberately hidden from the historical record. And deep inside that rusting steel hull, in a sealed compartment that remained hidden for decades, evidence waited that would challenge everything historians thought they understood about the final months of World War II. So here's the question I'll leave you with, the one that keeps researchers, historians, and divers coming back to this mystery year after year. If U-869 was conducting a secret mission near American shores, and if the evidence suggests it might have successfully deployed operatives before sinking, where did those operatives go? What did they do? Are there other secrets from that final, chaotic year of World War II still waiting to be discovered? The Atlantic holds thousands of wrecks. Each one has a story. But U-869's story reminds us that sometimes the most important stories are the ones that powerful people deliberately tried to erase from history. The FIS. Divers who found this submarine gave it back its name. They gave 56 men their proper memorial. They proved that truth, even when buried beneath 230 feet of ocean for 80 years, eventually finds its way to the surface. But the full truth? That might still be down there, waiting in the darkness, inside chambers that haven't yet been opened. What else is waiting to be found?